I actually heard about this book through an ex-KCD comic. It was talking about the movie Apollo 13. Specifically that scene where there's all these NASA engineers with this pile of materials and they need to make this thing fit into this thing using this materials, otherwise everybody's gonna die. It was saying, The Martian is a book for the kind of people who watched Apollo 13 and wished it had just been 2 hours of that scene. And I was a little bit astonished because that was exactly my experience with Apollo 13. And this book did not disappoint me. So you probably already know the basic premise. Mark Watney is an astronaut. He's left on Mars in what is basically a tent, which has oxygen and water, and he has enough food rations to last for a fraction of the time that it will take for somebody to come rescue him. So this book is a little more concept-driven, but there's definitely still enough character development that you care a lot about the people in there. There's also a lot of really cool cases of underdogs kind of rising above and being put in a high position, and there's quite a lot of comic relief. I definitely laughed out loud despite the fact that this was a really intense book. I'll be completely honest, I love Mars. I love thinking about Mars, I love reading about Mars, I love the idea of colonizing Mars. But then I read this book and, turns out Mars is terrifying. I mean, I kind of already knew about, like, the no water and no oxygen thing, and you also freeze to death. Also, the gravity is only, like, a third what it is on Earth. Your bones start to break down. I was in an astronomy unit with my physics students. I was talking to them about how eventually we're really going to need to go colonize the galaxy because there's issues with climate change and all that stuff. And one of my students was kind of the voice of reason for me and said, if we can figure out how to survive on Mars, why can't we just figure out how to survive on a warmer Earth? And I was like, oh, right. So that was a little disappointing. What the premise of this book comes down to is that if Mark misses one little tiny thing in his calculations, or makes one small computational error, or fails to account for some tiny detail, he will die. The end result of this whole thing is just this phenomenal experience where you are, in this book, lost to the world, turning page after page, on the edge of your seat, over whether a fictional character will solve a fictional math problem correctly. I know when I put it that way it sounds completely crazy, but I feel like we all connect with this on some deeper level. We're not usually conscious of how much we rely on other people having done their math correctly. You notice it when you get on a roller coaster, because someone actually sat down and did the math to optimally make you feel like you are about to fall to your death without actually putting you in any real danger. You hope. You also feel it when you jump into a self-driving car if you've ever done that. You might feel it on a plane, and you would definitely feel it if you were in a rocket on your way to Mars. But the thing is, it's just as true in a high-rise building, an elevator, in a crowded intersection, a highway, on an overpass, on a bridge. Usually we don't feel it. We don't feel like our life depends on someone doing their math correctly. So anyway, The Martian, Andy Weir, whether or not you've seen it, you should read this book. Next week I'm going to show you one of my favorite physics demos, so do stay tuned. I will see you then. Hey, I'm a big science fiction nerd, so if you have reading recommendations for me, hook me up in the comments.